Hi, this is Ron Nutter, and welcome to another edition of Techbytes with Ron Nutter. This time I'm going to show you, if you're renting, how you too can have a smart home. And that starts now. I've talked about in some of the other videos smart home for travelers, which is going to be, you'll have to have a fairly small subset of things. But then I started realizing that not everybody owns their home and not everybody travels. So there are those who rent for whatever reason, and that's fine. Sometimes housing in a certain area you want to live in is very expensive, and then you actually come out ahead in renting, especially if you don't know where you want to live. But that's a whole nother discussion. This time we're going to talk about how you can have a smart home if your landlord has some fairly restrictive statements in the lease agreement or your rental agreement. And that can happen. I've been a landlord at one point, and I understand why some of those are there, but having said that, some of them can go too far. But let's move on first. And I've got some notes below me, so bear with me as I kind of shift back and forth. The easiest things to have in a smart home when you're renting will be things that plug into a wall. The Alexa Echo Dot. If you've got like the Wemo smart plug, you see me do some videos on. The Wise Cam. There's a host of items that can be used. So those are very easy to do. Now, if it's got to be wall mounted, that's not out of the realm of possibility yet. And there may be some things, we'll say, for example, if you're not wanting to subscribe to cable TV and you're wanting to do over the air, okay, you're going to have an antenna, and an outdoor antenna may not be an option. So you're going to have some sort of what I'll call patch or flat antenna that you're going to have to put somewhere. Well, this is an excellent time because when they signed a lease agreement or a rental agreement, is going to remember all the statements and clauses and subclauses and all that good stuff. So take it out and review it. See what your liability is going to be for if the wall gets damaged, because some of these devices come with some double sticky tape, which I found out the hard way can peel the paint right off a wallboard. And depending on the age of the wallboard, it might bring a little bit more than just the layer of paint. So look at something called 3M command strips. And let's shift over here, and I'm going to no, don't want to do that page. We'll shift back here first, and you'll see me. We'll look for just 3M command, not EM command, 3M command strips. There we go. And these are some of the options. Well, here, we'll pick the refill strips pack there, and I've got a link to this in the show notes. This is something that you can use to put like patch antennas, or there's any number of things that you can do with this. So if it's a patch antenna, even a smoke alarm, and we're going to talk more about smoke alarms here in just a moment. So this is an option, and it's a creative option, and I've seen these things hold a fair amount of weight. So I mean, obviously I wouldn't want to put a flat panel TV up with these, but things like a smoke detector, a patch antenna, things that are reasonably light, you've got a good chance at. Now, that brings up to the next thing, and let me switch back to this other screen here, and that's if you have a garage door, and let's go Sonoff for channel, okay, and Pro. Now, okay, here we go. We'll get the one up that I'm thinking about. Now, this is the one. Now, this is the Pro, and then what you'll want to do is look at the Pro V2. So let me get that one up here. There we go. And that is a way, if you're renting, say, a duplex or a house that has a garage, you have a chance of doing your own smart control of the garage. But now here's where you've got to think about things a little differently. And are there contacts that you can just tap into with the Sonoff? Is there a special remote control requirement? And this is where, the landlords, and it is their right. Now, typically in some states, they have to give you like 24 or 40 hours advance notice when they're going to come in and do an inspection. But let's face it, they own the property, and that is, they have that option. So if you're going to do something like this, hopefully you're on very good terms with the rental agent. And they may say, yeah, don't worry about it. But some people, when they inspect, they're going to be going with a fine-tooth comb. They find any violations, you're going to be hearing from them. So this may be an area you can't do anything with. It's just going to depend on your specific situation and the rental agent and so on. So it's some of the newer garage door openers have this ability natively, but typically those are going to be a little more expensive. So that's not going to be something you'll probably find in a rental property. Now we got on to the subject of doorbells, and we'll bring up the Ring doorbell. And this is something that, would be nice to have, but let's face it, now with the Rings, we're looking at something that you're going to have to put holes in some sort of stud or in the doorway, and that's not going to be easy to hide. Plus it being there, somebody will pick up on that one. Again, talk to the rental agent. You may have some leeway, especially if you've been a renter with them for a long time, or depending on the situation, maybe if you offered to leave it or something. I mean, I realize the Rings are not cheap, but you might be able to negotiate your way into that one, especially if you're looking at staying there for a while. Now, lights. Now we're in a whole nother ball game, and this is where you have some other options. And I was looking for one of my, here we go. There we go. I had forgotten this one little option. Now, there are several ways that you can approach this. You can go with bulbs like the Sylvania, and this way it just screws in like a regular bulb. Now, if you're going to do that, as you go through the apartment, duplex, whatever you're renting, take out the bulbs that the landlords put in and probably put them in a box and just label it landlord bulbs. So that way when you do move out, you just replace those bulbs back. And then as you replace them, it reminds you that you need to be picking these up, because, even though some of these, like this one's around $20, you still don't want to leave that around. But this way you can make where you're going to be more home. Now, if you don't have the bulbs right away, you can look at something like the slamper, and you see me do some videos on that one. I've got a few more planned. That this is also an option for you to have smart bulbs, and you can just ease your way into it. So there's two options, certainly. Now, smart outlets and switches, this is where you're going to have to do some deciding how you want to do it. If it's something like this that's got wires, you may not want to do that one. Again, it comes down to what says in your rental or lease agreement, what you can do. Now, the landlord may say, all right, it's fine to do it, but you have to use my electrician. Okay, look at it from their standpoint. That way, if something happens, they've got somebody they can go after and not necessarily have to go after you. And their insurance may require that one. So there's several ways to look at having to do that. Now, there are switches, and I've got, I believe it's SwitchMate, and I've got those in the description for this video, that they are I'm not going to call it a snap-on, but they fit over an existing light switch. Now, they've got two different models. If you've got the standard, not the rocker arm, but the switch that most of us use sync, they have one model for that. Now, if you have the rocker, where it's kind of a plate that's got, it's a little bit it's much bigger than the switch. Anyway, you'll know it when you see it. They have those that you can just stick onto it. So there you can get the advantages of having a smart switch, but you don't have to touch any of the wiring. And then at the end of the day, if you can avoid touching the wiring, that's going to be the thing to do. And let's see, we take a little journey here real quick, and let me get back, and we'll go to here, and let's go to SwitchMate, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, see, this is the one that you have the one model for if you have that kind of light switch, and if you have the other kind, and I don't know that you will see those as much. Typically, it's this one. So you have ways that you can do it, and we're seeing there is a price associated with them, but let's face it, it's at least an option, maybe not as good, but this is an area I haven't delved into yet, because there are some things that I don't know. I haven't really made up my mind how I'm going to do it. And certainly if you do that with the bulbs, that's probably going to be the easy way to do it. You just leave the switches turned on and then you're done. Now, security cameras. You've seen me talk about the Wyze camera, and then I've got the other one that I have used, both good cameras. Now, those are, again, something you can put all over the place, and especially if you have an apartment that has no outside windows or minimal, wouldn't hurt to have a few of those in place so that if the landlord does come in while you're not there, which some states I think you have to be there, but I'm not a lawyer, and I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. It's a good idea anyway. That way, in case someone were to break in, heaven forbid, I don't wish that on anybody, that you now have a chance of getting that recorded, and it's that much more information you can give to the police. And especially with some of these being either 1080 or this one's 720, like another one you see me use that's got 1080 resolution, that is also a good option, because why pay a monthly subscription fee to an alarm company when you can do this yourself? And really, there's ways you can place these that they're probably going to blend right in. And if they're in for just a quick dash in, seeing what they grab and get out with, that's probably, they're not going to be looking for that kind of thing. Now, the other thing we've got to look at is smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. There are several good brands out there. I'm familiar with the First Alert. They do have one model that's a smoke detector only, and another one's a smoke detector and carbon monoxide. Now, if it's a newer building or complex, what have you, I don't know that you'll have as much risk for carbon monoxide, and please, if you're with the fire department, don't get on me. It seems like the ones I've heard about are the older buildings. Not to say there couldn't be a problem. So the pricing that I've looked at is, there's not a lot of difference. When I say a lot, there's maybe, the ones I've seen, like maybe $10 difference between the smoke alarm only and smoke alarm versus carbon monoxide. And, for that kind of difference, how do you put a value on life? And the answer is you can. Now, with that one, even if local code dictates that this is something that the landlord has to have installed, and typically those are probably going to be hardwired. Well, if they're hardwired to the AC line and power goes out, a lot of good they're probably going to do you, because the ones I've seen are not, there's no battery backup on them. So this is where having your own will be a nice little add to the situation. Plus, if a fire does break out, or you do have a carbon monoxide leak and nobody's there, depending on how you get everything implemented, you should be able to get some sort of text message or email alert saying, hey, I'm detecting smoke, or I'm detecting carbon monoxide. So especially if no one's at home, or if you do have a pet, you can rush home and there's a chance you can get them out, or at least get somebody to get them out while the fire department's on the way. So there are, well, I guess what I'm trying to get to at the end of the day, there are ways where you can do this. I mean, it's very simple for devices like this that plug into the wall. You've got LED bulbs that screw right into a regular light socket. You can do Smarthome with that. If you've got a lot of tungsten bulbs, you get this device called Slamfer from the folks at Sonoff. There are any number of things you can do. So it's a matter of what you feel the most comfortable with. But if it gets involved in getting into the AC wiring, you probably don't want to do it. And if it's going to be a heavy item that has to be wall mounted, that may rule that out too, unless you can somehow manage to get a shelf on there. And again, that comes back to knowing your rental agreement. They do say knowledge is power. So the more you know, and when you find something that specifically says you can do it, or if it doesn't say you can't, highlight, draw a circle around that section so that if there's anything said, you can go to your rental agreement. Hey, this is what I signed the day I moved in. If they've changed the process on you or changed the agreement, then there's an updated agreement you should have been given or should be given. And you probably should have to sign. At least I would think you would have to. So always be aware of that kind of thing, because the more you know how to protect you, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to protect yourself. So there's any number of ways you can do it. We haven't even talked about streaming media receivers. That pretty much got covered under if you can plug it in and you're good to go. So all you need to do is power, some sort of internet connection, and you might be able to even link with over your Wi-Fi router. If you are, try linking at 5 gigahertz, because 2.4, I'm trying in my own design as I upgrade my smart home to only use 2.4 for the devices that only have that in there. And you'll see another video here on YouTube where the person says, don't use 2.4. Well, I agree with that person in principle. If you have an option, yes, do use 5 gigahertz for multiple reasons. A, it's got shorter range. B, you're lessening the exposure to others getting into your network. But at the end of the day, there are some devices like the Smarthome, like Wise Camera, like the Sylvania smart bulb I've got here that only have 2.4 support in them. So at that point, you're not going to have a lot of choice. But just, it's just a matter of lining out what you want to do, develop a plan, and then go forward. Having said that, at the end of the day, if you have any questions, anything, please reach out to me. I'm trying to respond to the questions. I don't always get to them as quickly as I would like to, and I'm running a little bit behind, but as they say, teacher, I've got a good reason. I've been spending a lot of time getting a whole series of videos ready to go, and as we all know, there's only so many hours in the day. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'll get to you as soon as I can. Hopefully I'll be getting caught up this week. If you want to get started on some of this, I do have one book that's already out. It's Making Your Home Work for You. It's a DIY smart home guide. There's a lot of foundational information in it that gets you kind of started where to go. There are some implementations where it talks about it. There's no one single right way to do this. It's just taking it one step at a time and getting a feel for what works better for you. If you've got two devices and you're not sure which one to go with, if you've got someone else that's done it, ask them. If you don't have anybody, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to do what I can, because there's some tricks I may know about it. I haven't looked at all the devices, but as I work with the different ones, I'm trying to make notes as to what I find. And I was working with one today, TP-Link Casa, their outlet, and I found a little, I won't call it a quirk, but it was something to make note of during installation. So this book is out now. I've got another one due out. I'm hoping, if not by Christmas, that first of the year, because there's enough changing that I'm doing the YouTube videos as quickly as I can get them out. Then I'll be also doing a podcast here within the next couple of weeks. I'm already, actually, the audio you're hearing now is actually going to be on that. So if you're not able to watch the videos and you've got a good commute to work, I'm trying to keep these to about 15 to 20 minutes so you can listen to several episodes. So if your drive to work's fairly short, you can probably get one of them in. If it's a little bit longer, you can probably get several in. And I'm trying to do about 2 to 3 per week. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm always looking at different manufacturers in different categories to see how best things will fit for myself and for others that may have a different application than what I do. So thank you for your time. We'll see you again soon. I'm trying to do about 2 to 3 videos a week. So we'll probably see some more later in the week. Thank you for your time. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so now, so that you can also then use the notifications icon. So as I do come out with new videos, you'll get notified about them. And please enjoy what you're doing with this. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to do what I can. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you in the next video.